Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Reinvent Legal Business Series 2. The first series that we did in Reinvent Legal Business was really focused on providing crisis support for the practicing professions, the practicing professionals in our industry. In this series, what we have done is identified various themes that have come out of that or have emerged or are emerging, as the case may be. And we're going to take those themes and really explore them from a global perspective. So you'll see our amazing panelists today are coming to you live from Australia, India, and the United States, and we'll offer that global perspective that I was just chatting about. We're going to make this available to you in two formats, as you see it now, so you can watch it and listen to it if you would like as a video, but also as a podcast. So it will become part of our Legalpreneurs Sandbox podcast series. So you can listen to it if that's easier for you, or you can listen and watch as the case may be. Today, as you all know, and we welcome you to this session, we're chatting about the case for legal R&D, research and development, with a particular focus on Legaltech Hubs and Innovation. So here's the sort of stuff we're going to be exploring today. Whether or not the legal industry needs research and development, whether they're ready for it or a focus or a function on it. We see it in so many other industries. Are we able to pursue it? Should we be pursuing it in our own? And if we do, how do we do it? And what's different, if anything? Will it actually help us sustain change? I'm going to be asking those questions and also going to be asking yours. Our panelists, and you can see all of their names there before you, are going to introduce themselves. In fact, our first question is going to look at who they are, what they do, and how they do it. But let me first welcome on our behalf and yours, and it's a huge welcome, by the way, Alice Armitage, Komal Gupta, Michelle Grossmann, and Maya Markovich. Hello.
Hi, everyone.
You see, they really are live. They respond in real time when I speak to them. So Alice, I'm going to ask you to launch series number 2 and this session by telling us about you and what you do and what your organisation does. And again, welcome.
Well, thank you. And I am so excited to be part of this group and to be on a panel with all these amazing women around the world, all involved in legal tech. And I have to say, I don't think legal tech is usually all women. So it's very exciting to have that here today. Anyway, I am a professor of law and the director of applied innovation at the University of California, Hastings Law School. We are located right in the middle of San Francisco, so kind of in the heart of where innovation has happened for a couple of decades now. And so it's an odd thing to be a law school and to have a legal tech incubator program. I don't know really of any other law school that does it quite the way we do it. And the reason that I did that is, or I wanted to create one, was that I'm passionate about changing legal education and making it more really focus more on making our students practice ready. And I think that what that means in the 21st century is very different from what it meant in the 19th or 20th century. And honestly, legal education hasn't changed much from the prior centuries. So one way that I wanted to do it was to have actual entrepreneurs on campus so that our students could have exposure and experience with talking to and interacting with entrepreneurs, as well as the community that comes along with entrepreneurs. So investors and alumni who are partners at various firms or in-house that want to see what's going on in legal tech, and also just members of the San Francisco community. We have a lot of public events in which we invite anyone to come in and meet all of us and meet our students and the founders. And I think that that's just a great way for our students to get outside the bubble that law school tends to be and to really see what their role in the world will be. But we're unusual. Again, we're unusual because we're a public law school. So to the extent that we are doing that, have done it to date, it's funded by the school and therefore the state of California. But honestly, we're seeking private partnership to move forward because our funding is always an issue. And we want our program to grow. It's been incredibly successful. We've had 3 cohorts now, and they run for 3 months. They run concurrent with the semesters at Hastings. So from August to November, and then again from January to April. And we focus on early stage startups. So that's really our niche. We're looking for really pre any kind of large seed funding. We are, maybe they have some family and friends, but these are really early stage, and we feel that we can help them and have a mark in the industry by providing them with events and a curriculum that is, very early things that they need to do, how to incorporate, which way to incorporate, how to copyright, trademark their names and brands, how to get product market fit, how to do a pitch, all of those very basic things that an entrepreneur needs to be able to actually begin fundraising. And what's good about that is also the students can come to these events and they are also learning about the business of legal technology, something which isn't usually taught in law school. So it's been great. I would say that we have probably 15 now legal tech startups that are wandering around the world, having been part of LexLab. And they've gone on to be in other accelerators. We have one in Germany. We have companies that are really from everywhere now. And the students, in fact, we had one student that was interacting with a founder of a company last fall, and she was made a co-founder because they liked her experience pre-law school so much that, just from interacting at LexLab, she's now a founder of a going concern, which is kind of exciting. Mm-hmm. But also, we've had a lot of just terrific opportunities to grow not only our own network, but to offer our network to these startup founders and to our students, and to see the legal tech community coming together. And, for a law school, that's unusual. And I think it's a great thing for students to realize early on that this is the way the legal profession is going, and they can get a little taste of it before we send them out into the real world.
You're kind of redefining how you work with your alumni as well, though, I imagine, right? What an amazing continuation of that network.
Yes, it is. It's very engaging for them, I think. And although, a lot of them are partners in big law firms and not yet ready to accept all the things that we are promoting, but I think they will eventually. They can say they heard it first at LexLab, if nothing else.
That's right. That's fantastic. I have so many questions to ask you, but I'm going to restrain myself and go to Komal, because I know she has lots of cool stuff to tell us as well. So what's happening in India?
Thank you, Terri. I am excited about being a part of this discussion today. I head innovation in Cyril Amarchand Mangaldas, which is a leading law firm in India. I am a lawyer by qualification, and what I do at CAM is, look at parts of legal services that we can be delivering using a combination of people, process, and technology. An important piece that we work on is developing client solutions. And for me, clients are internal as well as external. So for both. And firm building and driving the culture of innovation. Now, for all that I do, Prarambh becomes, Prarambh, which is CAM's Legal Tech Incubator, becomes an obvious, initiative to start because we require technology for all of these initiatives. Whether we develop solutions for clients or we develop solutions for the firm in-house, we require technologies in various parts of our business. Now, because we work with technology, we obviously meet a lot of technology vendors. Most of the technologies that the firm was using and is still using is from the foreign technology providers. But in India, it is just, the wave has just begun, the initiative has just begun for people to start developing, to start thinking that, our lawyers also require technology, and that we can be brave enough to develop something, domestically and provide it to our lawyers. So or the obvious thing is that we meet a lot of such developers. But when we look at some of the, we've been meeting so many of them, and we look at the products, we have the opportunity to analyze the products and how relevant are they. And mostly we conclude that the product that has been developed is more of an imagination of the developer, that this is a problem of the lawyers and I'm going to solve it, and I've made a fantastic product. So what we find is that the subject matter expertise, the guidance, the real requirement of the real pain point of a lawyer is not known to them, because most of the people who are developing are either non-lawyers, or they are students, or just 2 years qualified, so they've not really had the experience a lawyer with a few years of experience would have. On the other hand, if you compare people in the rest of the world, I have seen that most of the successful legal tech startups have been actually founded by lawyers who worked for like 15-20 years in a particular practice area. So they understand the problems. So which is why we felt that why do we not support our domestic talent? And CAM has such a huge intellectual capital, knowledge bank, amazing clients who can, and industry experts, who can help the tech developers on the business side, and we can help them with the domain, knowledge. So that is how we actually, started Pranam. And the idea floated in 2018. It came into existence in 2019. We've had our first cohort, successful completion in April. We are now geared up to launch the second cohort, which will be focusing on solving post-COVID problems. So there are a lot of areas that we've identified, which are not only relevant today, but will be relevant post-COVID as well. And we're looking at applications really from tech developers who will be, developing something that is going to be relevant for long. This project is fully sponsored by CAM, and what we expect at the end of, and what we've seen, actually we've just had the first cohort, so what we've seen is, and what we expect from the 6 months duration of working in the CAM office in a dedicated space that is for Pranam, that at the end of the program, we will have developed a great product, as well as at least prepared the founders with basic skills that are required to for a successful business setup, and that after the 6 months they will be able to go out to the market and sell their product confidently. The products are not confined to CAM. There might be products that CAM will use because they're relevant to us. There may be products that are relevant to the industry. So it is for the entire legal industry and not just for CAM.
Mm-hmm. Well, some firms, and I'll touch on this with you as well, Michelle and Maya, but some firms in terms of their incubators or hubs take an interest in the cohorts that work with them, and some of them don't. Is your model to take an interest in the folks that are with you, or a business interest, I mean like a share of the business, or is that something completely separate?
So we do not take any equity in the startups that we are incubating. It is completely I would say pro bono, or I would say it is just giving back to the industry, because we want to and we believe in driving the change. So someone has to start it. It is the legal tech in India is so neglected, or is so not seen as important. Of course, COVID has changed it, by the way. We have at least the lawyers have now started accepting that collaboration technologies are great. So at least they've got comfortable with Zoom and WebEx. But how much are we really using the great technologies that are available or can be made available for improving the way we deliver legal services, the way we conduct business of law, and how can we make ourselves productive and efficient, do things better, and ultimately serve our clients better. That is still in a development, in a thinking stage. So I think that CAM has just taken this initiative to be driving the change in the industry. We believe that there is a huge scope of improvement, and we wish to lead that change.
Fantastic. So many opportunities, and we are going to come back to some of those as well. But Michelle, tell us what's happening in the land of Oz.
Sure, thanks, Terri. So yes, I'm Michelle Grossmann. I'm the Chief Innovation and Transformation Officer at Lander & Rogers. So we're a law firm with offices across Melbourne, Sydney and Brisbane. My role covers management of business transformation, innovation and programs, both internally at the firm, as well as running 2 hubs. So the first being an iHub, which is our client-facing innovation hub, which operates as a separate business unit internally at the firm. The iHub, really, we established to focus on improving the delivery of legal services and to work closely with our clients around co-designing solutions to solve their challenges. The iHub was created because we had identified that our clients were looking for forward-thinking solutions to an increasing broad range of legal and business issues, and really demanding greater connectivity and more streamlined service delivery. We recognise that tapping into Australia's growing legal tech sector, though, was really the next step that would provide us with the tools we needed to innovate our client experience further, and really to adapt to and evolve the digital legal future. So externally, in January 2019, we created Australia's first law tech hub in Melbourne, and then later in October last year, we established one in Sydney, and we did that in partnership with YBF Ventures. So I guess as the first legal tech hub of its kind in Australia, the Law Tech Hub gives our lawyers and clients that opportunity to be at the forefront of tech and the development of new tools and legal solutions. There's also an opportunity to work in collaboration with legal tech startups who are really leading the way in digital disruption. And the initiative itself is really helping to drive a firm culture in which people embrace innovation and take new approaches to legal and business challenges. The Law Tech Hub's an immersive co-working environment where technology entrepreneurs, lawyers and business experts come together. Our main areas of focus, which are always forever changing as tech changes, have been around things like blockchain, AI, smart contracts, predictive analytics, automation, robotics, and smart connectivity platforms. Twice a year, we select some of the country's most promising legal tech startups, and sometimes we do seek applications externally from Australia, and we're just going through a round at the moment for our next cohort, which is kicking off actually from next week, with some international based interest as well. But really the innovation community in Melbourne and Sydney, we're looking to kind of build that out, and certainly with remote working, we are flipping that model somewhat to more of a virtual based hub, which I guess, although that was scary at the time, that's obviously producing greater scope and capability for us to extend outside of Australia at the same time. But generally our resident startups join a vibrant co-working workspace at YBF Ventures, and they themselves support emerging tech and innovation business. So there's dedicated space where they can exchange knowledge and work aside like-minded startups. And those startups work closely with Lander & Rogers lawyers and business experts really to refine their products, receive valuable mentorship, feedback and legal expertise. They can also take opportunities to connect with our firm wide business and community networks and test products with potential clients. So the Law Tech Hub's really to support Australia's growing legal tech sector and hopefully more broadly outside of Australia into the future, to drive technology-focused approach to legal service delivery. I guess exposed to kind of that fast-thinking agile world of tech startups, our lawyers and clients in return gain really fresh insights into how technology can help them work smarter and faster. We have a board that's appointed that leads the hub strategy. And as Terri asked just before of Komal, we take zero equity in our startups. The program is flexible and it's really needs-based. So we work through with our startups and discuss their challenges and go through that with our lawyers and innovation team as required. And we work together to find solutions and identify opportunities to test those products within the market. But basically our common goal is to transform the legal practice for the better.
Fantastic. And I should mention that we run a free virtual demo series which we call Legal Techie Tuesday, and we've been very grateful in working with Michelle and just about to start work with Komal as well to be able to bring some of the work that those cohorts have been doing to a broader world as well. So thank you again for those partnerships. We value them and we love them. And, you know, last but certainly not least, Myra, I want to come to you because you folks at Denton's, in a way, you know, you kind of launched all of this globally, you know, the whole, this Legal Tech Hub idea some time ago. So I'm bookending the United States. We started with Alice and now we're going to go to Maya. So over to you. Tell us what's happening at Denton's.
Yes, thank you. It's so great to be part of this incredibly relevant programming and wonderful panelists. I am, as Terri said, I'm the Chief Growth Officer of Next Law Labs. We're based here in the Silicon Valley area, although we're really truly a global organization. So, you know, and as part of the world's largest firm by attorney headcount. So we really have a presence across most, if not all, time zones. Denton's recognized early on that the legal profession is undergoing disruption, being driven by things like globalization, technology, generational shifts, and, you know, most imminently, client needs and expectations. So Next Law Labs was founded back in 2015 to shape and drive this disruption and really embrace this opportunity, as a lot of the other panelists have said, really to be a force for transformation in this, you know, multi-billion-dollar profession that has traditionally been so resistant to change. So we were the first legal tech and innovation focused entity in the world, launched by a law firm, and we're just hitting the 5-year anniversary mark this summer. So, you know, initially, you know, our somewhat humble, audacious goal was to reinvent the business and practice of law via technology. We've since grown into 5 operating units. We now also include Next Law Ventures, which is the lab's investment arm. That was the first legal tech focused venture fund. Also Next Law Referral Networks, which is the world's largest network of small to mid-sized firms and PR firms. And Next Law In-House Solutions, which is a consulting advisory that's focused on supporting in-house counsel. So with labs specifically, we don't have classes or cohorts in any formalized way. So we work with and accelerate legal tech startups that are driving, you know, they're solving an identified business problem in some compelling way. So sometimes we do invest in them via the Next Law Ventures Fund. Other times we craft a collaborative partnership that benefits all players but doesn't include equity. So, you know, each collaboration is very different in terms of outputs and success metrics, which we define at the outset and we track along the way, but they typically result in co-development projects, pilots, proofs of concepts, projects essentially that enable Denton's attorneys to get early access to cutting edge technology and also provide, you know, incredibly valuable feedback to the startup about their target market, and ultimately, of course, benefits Denton's clients via more innovative client service delivery models.
Fantastic. Look, it's just amazing, the work that you're doing. So firstly, let me say congratulations, because it is incredible and it is making a difference. But I wanted to, and I'm going to throw this one to you, Michelle, because as I was listening to you, one of the things that kept coming out, and I guess it's in your titles actually as well, is this kind of focus on innovation, and in your case, Maya, growth kind of being part of that as well. And I guess sometimes in these titles we see the word transformation as well. And looking at all of that together and thinking about your space, virtual or otherwise, in order to be able to get the sort of change, the sort of energy, if you like, behind the change going, how important is it, Michelle, to have a dedicated, and I'm going to say physical space, but I'm going to say virtual at the moment as well, a concentration, if you like, but also have a leader to move these things along?
Good question. So I think having those words in a title, I think that can be good and bad, because I think it can also give the impression that you're entirely responsible for the function.
Sure.
And I think it's really important to remember that everyone does have a role when it comes to innovating within legal, and then within any industry really. And I think today it should be a part of everybody's job from a day-to-day basis. So, I mean, at Landers, we do have a dedicated team, but additionally, we've created roles of innovation champions across the firm and in each practice group nationally. And I think it is important to have separate space. So the iHub internally at the firm has dedicated space where we run workshops and brainstorm ideas, get people away from their offices and desks, and I think that's certainly an important element. Although, as you mentioned, at the moment with remote working, that's certainly taken on a completely different form. We are actually moving premises in Melbourne, and we've been very fortunate to be able to kind of think through a new design of what, I guess, what would make sense in terms of running innovation at the firm, and that's really presented us with a fabulous opportunity to create 2 dedicated spaces, which I've named Be Creative and Be Inspired. And those rooms, I'm hoping will facilitate the ability for the people internally at the firm and clients to embrace those 2 words. And really with the Legaltech Hub, we wanted to open and stretch people's minds in new ways of thinking and seeing up close how the startup world operates, taking risks and being prepared to flip their model and be agile in their operation. So we have got our own desks available in those spaces in both Melbourne and Sydney to present opportunities for clients and people internally to kind of spend time and think differently about, you know, once they get back to their desks, how they can put some of that into practice. Obviously, being a more risk-adverse profession, those opportunities are certainly of high value. So, I mean, I would definitely say having space, even virtual, is imperative to moving forward innovation. But although I think it comes from the top and it needs to be driven, and there certainly needs to be those central roles and teams, you know, the rest of the organisation can't just be looking for those teams to solve or move things forward. And I think there needs to be opportunities to extend roles beyond and give people a level of accountability as well, more broadly across organisations.
Yeah, absolutely. I wanted to pick up something that all of you have kind of touched on, and to pick up specifically from what you were just saying there, Michelle, about more or less a change of the space from physical to virtual in a way. Komal, something that you were saying earlier about, you know, your focus wanting to be on growing the domestic market, but also with an eye to what you've been working with internationally, and initially ask the question of you, Maya, and pick up one of the questions that we've had from our audience. All of you are working with different cohorts, some of them on different projects, some of them on similar projects. And so the question that I wanted to ask you, Maya, is to what extent, and I'm picking this up from a question here, to what extent do all of the law tech or legal tech hubs, innovation hubs, talk together so that what we're kind of not seeing is necessarily a duplication of effort, but a consolidation of effort. And I know, we've seen it in some consolidation around, for example, reviewing tech through Rain and Court, or some of the other evolving business models there. But how do you connect? And I know you connect globally through your own organisation, but is that a good idea? Is there room for a higher level of collaboration between hubs globally, do you think? And Komal, I want to come to you with that question as well, but Maya first, if I may.
Sure. I mean, I think it's normal in the kind of the disruptive cycle that is the legal tech industry that hasn't quite, really gotten much traction yet. I think it's, some consolidation is coming, and I mean, obviously we're seeing it in terms of acquisitions and platforms like you mentioned, Rain in Court and others. I think that's market driven on the product level specifically, because end users are being bombarded with way too many point solutions, and are trying very hard and are not able to kind of make sense of it, and don't have the resources to kind of make sure they're on top of it, which is a lot of the questions that we get in my day-to-day at Nexaw Labs. With respect to the hubs themselves connecting, I think that there's a huge amount of value in that, and we do see we are seeing some of that happening. I think it's a little early, but my hope is that the kind of there will be kind of consolidation within regions of communities, and then those will kind of branch up into what eventually will be sort of a more international. There's so much need right now for standardization. Something I know we talk about a lot, Terri, is kind of how do you even talk about how to hire somebody? To what terms do you use when you're talking about the competencies that they're going to need in an innovation role in legal? There's no so we need a lot more collaboration than we have right now. And I also see my experience in the last 5 years has been that the legal tech community is very open and welcoming. There's seems to be a lot less of the kind of trying to muscle each other out, of more, and maybe that's just because we're so young, but very supportive across, and also very global from the get-go.
Yeah, I'd have to say that has been my experience of this community as well. Incredibly generous, and incredibly open to collaboration. And I guess I'm wondering, Komal, is it because you folks have kind of looked to focus domestically in a way because there's so much talent that you can be leveraging? Is it because there's a lot of individual need within countries in a way before folks can even come together, or how do we balance that?
So Terri, when we started, even when the concept of Prarambh, came into existence, there has been a lot of collaboration between CAM and some of the incubators in UK to understand how they've done it, because they are much older than we are. We've only finished one cohort, while the others are at the 4th or the 5th cohort. So we've shared best practices. We've tried to gain knowledge on how do we. So before I started, it was important for me to look around and see how others have done it. And I have to say that there has been collaboration, there has been a lot of sharing of knowledge, and everyone has been very open about the best things to do and how the mistakes not to make, the good practices, even the documentation. What kind of documentation do you do with external people that you're bringing into the premises of the firm, etc. But collaborate. In fact, there has also been collaboration at an internal, or domestically, wherever we found good, sources. We've got them into Prarambh, maybe to do a certain session, a specific session for our cohort. But to have a global platform for all of them to come together, for us to, take that initiative, I think there's a huge scope. I think you've given us that idea, and I would say you should lead it. You should lead it. We will definitely.
Done.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I don't think anybody is going to be close to that idea. It is going to generate a lot of opportunities, a lot of exposure and visibility for all of them. And there's a lot of learning. Like even right now, as I'm on this session, I'm learning. So,
Yeah.
how can our tech founders not be learning? All of them coming together will definitely learn, and it'll be a great practice. So I leave this thought now here that you take this initiative.
well, we have got the Chief Innovation Officers Forum, and I think all of you are members of it. And it is, I think we find that, and I think you've probably all found that, I certainly have, that, it is a wonderful collaborative and discussion opportunity. And so it's the beginning, but yeah, there's absolutely scope to do more, and we will. I promise we will. I'll give you an undertaking that we will. I wanted to focus a little bit, if I can, on this topic that keeps coming up from what all of you are saying, and that's around collaboration and the relationships that you're building, whether it's with students through this, Alice, or whether it's through the cohorts that are coming through the hubs or the labs, whatever the case may be. But part of what you were all talking about there is a different, in a way, it seems almost a different sort of relationship that's evolving, where you're co-developing solutions, and I'm wondering, and Maya, I'm going to ask that question of you first. Is it at a point where we can actually say that this sort of collaboration, the co-development, the integral part that tech is now playing has really become a critical aspect of relationships with clients or students or whatever the case may be?
I'm really hoping that it is increasingly part of students, honestly. Like I feel very strongly about the kind of work Alice is doing. I think that it's incredibly important to start that upstream. I sit a little bit further downstream, and for me, ultimately, the goal of legal innovation in the for-profit and nonprofit spaces is to improve client service, right? So we always start with an identified pain point, either within a client's legal department as they're trying to adapt to, increasing pressures to do more with less, or within Dentons as they're striving to provide better client service. And the closer that we can get to a workable solution the first time, the better, right? And of course, this requires these solid relationships where you feel comfortable proposing options and asking for this collaborative feedback rather than feeling the need, which is kind of a lawyer-specific kind of personality trait almost, to feel like you need to get it all perfect before you show it to a potential user, right? And clients are increasingly asking for what we call legal plus advice. This strategic collaborative counsel that's well beyond what can I do, what can I not do? Like, what are the implications of this new process to the rest of the company? And working together on solutions to those kind of questions is becoming more common and more critical, and we're hearing a lot more demand for it.
Yeah. Alice, let me pick up on that, but also go back to something that you said, I think, at the beginning, and it was around particularly, I think, exposing students in your circumstances to really multidisciplinary thinking, which ultimately probably helps them to think a very different way. And I know that there's also opportunities when folks come in as interns or in graduate programs to kind of jump into the hubs that all of the rest of you have as well. But Alice, you come from or are within that kind of academic background where things bubble up and we experiment a little bit more. So I was wondering, how important do you think it is for our industry now to be experimenting, to be thinking of the work that's being done by all of you as a research and development opportunity or aspect of our business, but more broadly the industry?
Well, I wish honestly that more lawyers were doing that. I see, at least in the United States, I see a lot more people talking the talk than actually doing the hard work and really changing things, so that it's better than it was 5 years ago. They know that they should be talking about it, but they're mostly focusing on their own processes. And I think as client pressure grows, as Maya just alluded to, I think that will change. But you talked about collaboration. So I'm part of a group of law professors who are trying to add legal tech into their curriculum, and it's sort of a global community. But some of them have put together this amazing series. It's really a course that they've made free this semester that's usually you have to pay for it. It's run out of Bucerius Law, but it's got professors from Northwestern and from Vanderbilt and from Chicago, Kent, and they're all giving these free presentations. There are 4,000 people from around the globe who have signed up for this. Are you?
Yeah.
So it's an amazing, I'm sitting in on all of them too, because it's an amazing learning experience. And I think that if we can get students to understand how important it is to know how to think like your clients, to understand their business needs, to be a business partner in not just the lawyer that sits in a back office and produces 150-page memos that just say it depends. They want something more proactive than that. And I don't think that most lawyers are ready to do that, right? Not really. And so if we can start early on to teach, like I teach my students about lean startup principles and design thinking and agile development. And I do that not only in a for-profit sense in terms of, how does a legal tech startup founder do this, but also in the context of access to justice. Because I think all of these changes that are being made possible by technology and mindset changes ultimately will have an even greater impact on access to justice around the world. So I think the earlier we can get people to realize that law is not an isolated profession as it has been, it no longer needs to be or should be. And to do that, we have to be willing to accept the input and collaboration of people, of professionals in different disciplines than the law.
Absolutely. So, and I think that aspect that you were saying, that willingness to be proactive and to pick up on what you were saying, Maya, as well, of being proactive and not perfect. So basically, being willing to jump into the market, collaborate, to hear from others, to evolve the solution, just seems to me to be such an important part of almost a mindset shift in many respects, I guess. Yeah.
It's such a... Go on, Maya.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
You're all being too polite.
Well, Maya and I know each other, so yeah. It really is. It's a different way of thinking, and it's not one that lawyers, failure for a lawyer is totally unacceptable. But I think that you can't really experiment. You can't try out new things if you're so afraid of ever doing anything wrong or admitting a mistake. So that's part of the mindset change that, really we all need to embrace.
Actually, you teed up what I was going to say exactly, because, yeah, thank you. We didn't plan that. I was just going to add on to the kind of the COVID kind of aspect of your question. Innovation requires experimentation. And I think that there's an opening right now for lawyers to do more experimentation with new tools and processes and a bit of psychological safety to do so, because lawyers are now being forced to try out all of these new methods and technology. And in a way, they've got a bit of a kind of a get out of jail free card, because no one's expecting them to know how to do it perfectly, sometimes for the first time in their careers, right? So they may have some leeway to experiment and try and fail without judgment, even though the lawyer brain is supposedly this fixed mindset, right? And now they have the space and kind of a good reason and an excuse to try, and this psychological safety to do so. So I think I'm hoping that, the legal profession's constraints have traditionally not made room for any of that, right? Nor for supporting or seeing the value in other people experimenting. But I'm really hoping that there's going to be, at least for some, a real shift in outlook now that's going to make folks more open to experimenting and paving the way for real innovation and transformation.
And I kind of think, to add to that, Maya, we're kind of, and I keep saying this, but I do think we're living a global proof of concept, aren't we?
Totally.
I mean, look at us on this call. You know, we're coming together from 3 different countries. There are no borders in what we're discussing. And to go back to that earlier question, there are borderless solutions around much of this as well, if we open up to that possibility. And so what do you think about that, Michelle? Do you think that what's happened as a result of, you know, or coming from tragedy, some good coming from tragedy, that we've really just opened up a whole different approach to experimentation, beyond borders, beyond mindset shifts, and all of the above?
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree, Terri. Like, I think there's so much opportunity at the moment, and like us all sitting here right now speaking is a perfect example of that. But and that's why we've had to, you know, also flip what we've been doing, because our Legaltech Hub has been a physical space where we've been trying to create this community where they're, you know, sitting together. But now, you know, having things more virtual opens up. Well, of course, we would look at applicants, you know, outside of Australia, because we're changing our entire program now to be to have that capability for it to be virtual and to engage in a different way. And I think that there's a lot to learn from, you know, the speed to which we've had to force some change on people. And I guess it's really shown how quickly people can adapt. And I think if these questions were asked last year, having not kind of seen what was going to hit us earlier this year, we probably would have all said not a chance. Like, you know, the concept of the courts operating how they are at the moment, and electronic briefs going down to barristers, and all sorts of technologies that we're now in a position to, for me, I feel like, quite easily implement, as opposed to sitting and strategizing the change management piece that we're going to have to work through, and the workshops and the training and the whole lead up before you even implement a system was quite, you would get bogged down in the detail of it. Whereas now you can very quickly implement and get people to play around with things, and they're very quick to offer feedback, which often would be a little bit harder. And I mean, today we've run a workshop on a pilot group of bot builders that are all lawyers that have been playing around doing decision tree logic to give feedback directly to that tech provider on what their experiences of that, and how they feel that would work better in order for them to come out with outcomes. And, you know, each day things always come up. And I think it's been a little bit in the reverse for me, in that I've got more people tapping me on the shoulder saying, what about this? Can we have a look at doing something more, you know, electronically, digitally, as opposed to in the reverse. So I think there's massive opportunity for us to really accelerate the legal industry forward. I just think we need to be smart and reflect on what's working. And also, I think there's certain elements of things that, you know, for me, I'm certainly looking forward to getting back into a room and engaging directly with clients and my team. And I think technologies have their place at times, but I also think there's a lot in what we're doing at the moment that I think people probably, over a period of time, spending every meeting on a Zoom call and a conference call is going to take a toll as well.
But we love Zoom calls for this, though, Michelle.
We love Zoom calls for this, I must say. But I've just come back from holidays, and the Teams ringtone, I feel like I've got PTSD from hearing it, because it's just all day, every day.
But it's one of the things you're saying there, and I just want to pick up on and throw this question to you, if I may, Komal. But you know, what you're describing is really redefining the way that lawyers work. Because a lot of this tech has been around for a long time, but there's been pockets of resistance, I'm going to put it that way, that has not necessarily carried it forward. But it's really approaching work quite differently, isn't it? Because, you know, we might have thought, how do we put together answers to a series of questions? We'll do an FAQ in text. But now it might be, oh no, there might be a bot that we can put together for that. It's really looking at it quite differently. Is that a fair comment, do you think, Komal?
Yes, absolutely. I think what is very important is a innovative mindset. If and let's not talk about law and practice. Let's talk about our daily life. Our daily routine every day. What do I do from the morning to when I wake up to the time I sleep? If I look at my daily routine and I see it from a point of view that I'm going to improve something in this, that there is scope of improvement, and I'm going to look at what I do the entire day, and I'm going to find one thing that I'm going to do better from the next day. I will be able to spot it. It is not going to be difficult for me to find that one. I'm sure I'll find many, but there is at least that one activity or one task that I do every day that I can improve. And that is pretty much what every lawyer has to do. Pretty much everyone has to do. But I would say that coming from the law firm and speaking for the lawyers, and the way I pitch innovation to them is that everyone needs to have a mindset. Yes, we know that people don't like change, so we're not saying that bring the change. We are saying improve. Improve. Now that improvement comes by a change, or that improvement comes by introduction of a process or a technology, or maybe you have to disaggregate your practice and identify tasks which can be done by other professionals. Maybe you need to do a little bit of movement of resources according to the tasks. Maybe you need to just do crowdsourcing of ideas from your firm, and the best of ideas come from your people. So I would just say that people need to be open to bringing improvement. So the moment you use the word change, it scares people away. But I'd say improvement. Can we bring efficiencies? Can we do things better? And if we have that open mindset of doing things better, automatically everyone will start thinking innovatively, and automatically we will see improvements.
And we have to start that continuum of change, that kind of comfort level with change from where you are, Alice, right? From even probably before law school, frankly, all the way through.
Well, certainly once they get to law school, and again, this goes back to the traditional curriculum, at least in the United States and in other common law countries, that I think it, has always been about going to court, and that's what lawyers do. They go to court, and that has changed dramatically. And so the kinds of work, the legal work, really demands in the 21st century, it demands a different way of thinking about everything, and it demands collaboration. And it also, I think the hardest thing is actually being client focused. Lawyers we're a service business. And what have other service businesses done recently? Well, they have started focusing on what their customers want and need, and trying to provide that in a better way, an improved way, in a way that resonates more with the customer than it does with the company itself. And that wasn't always true in companies, but that's certainly every other industry has had that kind of disruption happen, and the legal profession hasn't. So I think that that we are doing our law students a disservice to not foreshadow that for them, that's what they're going to have to do as they practice law. And it's tough, it's tough to get the faculty on board with that. I think academic lawyers are probably even more change resistant than practicing lawyers. So, it's an uphill battle, but I agree with everyone that said that things are changing post-COVID. I do think that it has forced everyone to realize, oh my gosh, I can do things I thought I could never do and that would never happen. And, there's some good things. Yeah, there's some things we don't like as much, but there are some things about it that are really nice. And actually we have to do them. And I think the clients are going to demand that more. And so once clients demand that of law firms will change. And then all those law firms and companies that are hiring law graduates are going to want their law graduates to be able to hit the ground running and not be just trained in how to think like a lawyer. Now they have to know how to be a lawyer, which law school has never done. And I think that's where we have to go to fill that need, so that we have to change right along with the whole profession as it moves forward. And I think it will accelerate now after the last 6 months that we've been through.
And I think they, like everyone in the profession, to go to your point, Komal, doesn't just need to bring the change, but actually be the change. So be willing to experiment and jump out there. I'm going to start to wrap us up, and I'm going to do it very reluctantly because I could sit here and have a conversation with all of you for at least another hour. But the title of our discussion today was the case for legal R&D, and with a focus particularly on Legaltech Hubs and Innovation. So Maya, I'm going to get you to start us, but I'm going to ask all of you to do in classic tech hub style, a pitch, a really quick, short pitch on what you think the business case for legal R&D is. You're first up, Maya.
Sure. So I didn't time myself or anything about this, but in thinking about this, just bringing it back to the first question we had about kind of an innovation space. We've been a virtual team from the beginning, but Next Law Labs was very deliberately structured as a skunk works, to sit outside the Denton's infrastructure, enabling us to be, more nimble, experiment without fear of failure, try things that had never been done before and see what worked. And it was really more of a state of mind than anything. But I'd say it has been absolutely critical to our success that we were unfettered by these traditional constraints of the business or practice of law. So I think my sort of pitch, I guess, is the legal industry is just mired, right, in centuries deep tradition. It hasn't benefited from the use of technology like other industries. We need to focus on business problem driven approaches where the user's pain point is driving the work and the result. This obviously isn't the way that law firms generally operate. So, which is why I think we need these dedicated innovation spaces and roles and mandates to make progress.
Fantastic. Thank you. Komal, same question. What's your pitch?
Well, my pitch is that, there can be no better time than now to start working and to start thinking and to start taking this, whole initiative seriously. I would encourage more people on the development side to identify opportunities that can be long lasting, that can stay relevant for a long time. For the lawyers, I think there can be no better time to help our clients, and if we keep our clients first, if we have the mindset to solve problems, to make things better, and to continuously improve and innovate, then the combination of all of this intent and the timing is going to create magic. And we are all, ready to create the magic. So everybody should make the best of this opportunity.
We certainly need a little magic now. It's a perfect time for it. Michelle, what's the business case for legal R&D?
Look, I think it's really the solution to the problem facing law firms in this rapidly changing business environment, which is how we harness tech to find new and better ways to serve clients. So I think R&D gives lawyers and clients the opportunity to develop new tools and legal solutions in collaboration, which you talked about earlier, Terri, with startups who are leading the way with digital. And I think the initiative itself helps to drive a firm culture in which people embrace innovation and take new approaches to legal and business challenges.
Fantastic. And Alice, you started us. The last word is yours.
I get the last word.
You're doing the wrap of the wrap.
Well, first of all, I'd like to say I think it's really interesting that all of these legal tech hubs are operating outside the constraints, as Maya said, of what the regular practice of law involves. And so I do think that we are all demonstrating in a way the mindset and the ability to experiment and perhaps to fail and then get up and try again and do it a different way. And I think that by modeling that we are helping others in the legal profession see that it can be done. So I guess my pitch would be that the legal profession is changing. That's just a given. And I think that everyone should just get on board with that and do that by keeping up with what's going on in legal technology. Go to meetups and there are meetup communities in legal tech all around the globe. And I think that by anyone can educate themselves about what's going on, become part of a group. And even if you're not working in a place that is particularly innovative right now, you can be the person that brings that kind of understanding and mindset and help them, because they're all going to need this eventually. And it's very exciting. There are going to be a lot more career paths for lawyers than there have traditionally been. We're going to law firms or just going in-house. There are going to be lots of other sort of multidisciplinary law, business, engineering, project management. There are going to be a lot of great paths to find the thing that you really love to do. And I think that's very exciting. So I just encourage everyone to jump on board with us. It's fun.
It's an amazing time to be in the industry. I've said it before, and I'm going to close by saying it again. It's the best time to be in the legal industry for the past 200 years. So, really, it's an incredible
Totally
time.
true.
And a good deal of why it is so exciting is because of the work that all of you do. So, Alice, Michelle, Komal, Maya, it's been just an amazing hour to have spent with you. Thank you for the work that you do. Thank you for being a part of this session. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. And if you enjoyed this session, please come back and visit us for Series 2 of the Reinvent Legal Business Series. We'd love to have you, or listen to us on the podcast when that is available. I'm sure that a lot more questions will occur to you after this time. And I also know all these wonderful people are open to you addressing them to them. You will find them all on LinkedIn, if not through their various organisation websites. Thank you very much again. Absolute delight. Wonderful discussion. And I can't wait till I talk you into being on another discussion with us very soon. Thank you. And to all of you attending, thank you so much.
Thanks, Terri.
Thank you, Terri.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.